Welcome to Impact by DIFFA Dallas, the official podcast of the Dallas chapter of the Design Industries Foundation Fighting AIDS. We'll share valuable info about the fight against HIV and AIDS, what our organization is doing to assist those in our community, and most importantly, how you can help us make a real impact.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Impact. I'm your host, Shane Allen, joined by Haley Clark, fellow DIFFA Dallas Board Trustee, soon to be Public Relations and Communications Vice Chair of DIFFA Dallas.
Yes.
Welcome and congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. New exec member. Pretty fun.
I know. Our fiscal year, what we call the season, because we're fancy, ends in June or July, so you'll be taking over from there, and it's going to be great. A lot of really great things, by the way, coming up. We can't talk about them now, but I know that a lot of our patrons are really chomping at the bit to get to a DIFFA event, and we're going to have some really good news.
Events are on the horizon, and they're going to be fun, and we will be together in the same room, and it's going to be great.
I'm really excited about it. The reason that Haley and I are here is because Mother's Day is coming up. And for those of you who are like, and haven't planned like me, I literally had to ask Siri when Mother's Day was, and she told me that it was May 9th. So it's coming up. So start planning.
Yes.
Haley is a mother, which is why I asked her to be here. I thought Mother's Day show, Haley. 3 children?
3 little boys.
Okay.
So I have 8, 5, and 2-year-old little boys. So you can imagine the volume decibel at our house is pretty substantial. It's loud, it's wild, it is a blast. It's the most rewarding thing I have ever done, and every day brings joy and challenge and excitement.
And they all love each other, and they never fight.
That's a new one. The interesting thing has been watching which ones fight with which. And so the youngest is proving to be the strongest adversary, and he's 2. So to watch him with the 8-year-old is interesting. No fear there. I
was an older brother, and my younger brother, Kevin, who ended up being the middle child, I was so bad to him that I now have adult post-child guilt. So I'm like super nice to my brother Kevin all the time.
Can we talk to my kids about this maybe and tell them that later they might regret this?
My dad had this conversation with us once. I remember it very vividly as a child. We'd just gotten into a fight about who knows what. And he goes, my dad's from the Florida Panhandle, so the accent will make sense. He goes, "Boys, you better learn to love each other because you might be all you got one day." And I think about that often. I'm like, He's absolutely right, because sometimes family is what you have, especially brothers and sisters.
That's right. And brothers have a neat bond, so it's been fun to watch them grow, and interesting to watch the hand-me-downs go. So we basically buy like one set, and then it goes all through each child.
Hey, that's parenting.
It's been fun.
With effectiveness.
Absolutely. But the poor third one, by the time it gets to him, I'm like, is this time to go? Should we let this sweater needs to go?
So, what's been great about this season of DIFFA is because we haven't been able to have events because of COVID. We've had virtual events and things like that, and our core patrons have been so great, and thank you for those of you who have stepped up and given and donated and bid in silent auctions this season. But we haven't had events, and we've been able to focus from a communication standpoint on the stories.
Right.
Why is DIFFA here?
Right.
Which is to raise money for organizations that serve men, women, and children living with HIV and AIDS.
Right.
And as I was preparing for this podcast episode, I came across a sobering statistic that this was a press release that I found from 2010 from an organization, and it said this Mother's Day, more than 3,000 women will die from AIDS-related issues. That's
crazy.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
There's good news, though. If there can be good news in this situation, is that number has reduced tremendously. There's some updated statistics out from the United Nations AIDS Council, and but still, this Mother's Day, over 700 young women will die from AIDS-related issues.
Right. And when you talk about women and how we talk a lot about getting the word out in Dallas, and that's one of my big concerns and why I love being on the board, is just to talk about AIDS and HIV, to know that it's still here, it's very much here. And then when we separate out the women aspect of it, and like you said, coming into Mother's Day and thinking about all the things we do politically with women and reproductive rights and all of that, we forget sometimes to think about HIV/AIDS and what that does for women, and how as women we need to be concerned and talking and thinking and reaching out to make sure that that awareness is still being addressed.
Right. And I can't help, and I'm sure your mind goes here too, as a mother, that when you hear a statistic, like, and the actual number is 784 young women will die on average every day. And I think that's at least 1,400 children without a mother.
Right.
Probably 2,800 if you average out 2 children.
Right,
you know.
and just full body chills. I mean, knowing that there are things we could do to help these women and the children that are affected. Huge reason of why I'm here, and what the time I spend with DIFFA, and hope that people will continue to give and know that it's children that are impacted as well.
Right. There's sorry, I just stopped myself from crying. There are 85%, there's another statistic from the United Nations, 85% of mothers-to-be are thankfully receiving therapy that will prevent the transmission of HIV to their child, which is great. Mm-hmm. But the work isn't done. No. I mean, that means that there's still, I can't do math fast, 15%
of pregnant women with HIV are not being treated.
Right. And that's important. It's organizations that DIFFA helps fund that are the reason that these numbers are going down. That's the reason that we're not saying 3,000 women are going to die on Mother's Day, that it's only 700. But there's still work to be done, because 700 is 700 too many.
A day, yes, and this is a day.
Yeah.
So absolutely work to be done. And now that we have more resources and the technology and things that make it preventable and make it possible to save these women, we really have no excuse. It's about manpower, and it's about giving, and it's about charities like DIFFA.
Right. I read a statistic, AIDS-related deaths. This was, the fact that it was this recent was surprising to me. AIDS-related deaths peaked in 2004.
Right.
2004.
Not 84.
Right.
Yeah, 2004. Right.
Thankfully, from 2004 until today, they've declined by 23%.
Right.
But again, that's 23% is not a huge number.
Nope.
Another statistic that I read is that new HIV infections have declined. Mm-hmm. Also, by 20. Oh no, I'm sorry. That's by 23%. AIDS-related deaths are down by 60%.
Well,
sorry about that.
So we can treat better. We treat better, right? But
so you hear of all these, these statistics, where we are with HIV and AIDS, how it affects women, and that's the other thing that we try to get out from DIFFA communications standpoint. Is there's a lot of people who assume this is a gay man's problem. Mm-hmm. It's not.
No. It's a huge reason why I'm on the board. I think it's really important that we talk about that aspect of it. And going into Mother's Day, I mean, here we are talking about all this death and going into Mother's Day. I think maybe one way to turn that into a positive would be to say that when you think about your mother and you think about all the mothers out there, what it meant to you on Mother's Day to cherish and honor your mom, we can all think about the moms that are sick and dying and those kids that will be left behind. And if that spurs you just to help DIFFA a little bit more, that's the reason to do it.
Yeah, that's a great point. And to hear these trends go down.
Yeah, it works. The money that we're raising, that we spend here locally in Dallas, I think today I saw 18,000 people in Dallas currently are affected that DIFFA helps directly. I mean, and it's hand to hand, which is what I love about our group too. Right. And so that's too many people.
Mm-hmm. The other side of that too, that we don't really talk about a lot, is because HIV is something that someone will die with, not from.
Correct.
People are living longer, more fulfilling, complete lives.
Absolutely.
Some of those people still need services throughout the rest of their life.
Absolutely.
They still need that life-saving medication.
Yep.
Some of them, unfortunately, a lot of people affected by HIV and AIDS are disproportionately living below the poverty line
Right.
and things like that. So beyond the science aspect of it and the
Right.
fact that we've helped
Right.
bring that number down, we're also helping those people who are able to benefit from that.
That's right. The programs aren't just about not dying.
Right.
The programs are about living fulfilled lives and helping those who may not meet certain credentials to be helped by the government, but there's a gap in between, and DIFFA is really good at targeting that group of people to help.
And in fact, I'll post this to our Facebook page later. Just search DIFFA Dallas on Facebook, and you'll see it. But I'm reminded of a conversation, an interview that I did with someone who went through the program at A Sister's Gift, which is one of our organizations that we assist. And she talked about how she's always been told that she wasn't good enough, that because she had HIV, that she deserved to die because she had HIV. And going through A Sister's Gift and those empowerment programs and really learning that, no, you have a life worth living.
That's right. Yeah.
And you're going to do something and make something of your life. Programs like that, I think, are just provide an immeasurable impact to people's lives.
Yeah, and if you want to know more about the groups that DIFFA supports, we have all kinds of information. I think people are very surprised to see who we support, and I've always been interested to know, and so inspired to see the direct correlation between the money that's given, the events that we have, and where it goes directly is really special, really neat.
Right. And all that information, by the way, is online at diffadallas.org. Happy early Mother's Day.
Thank you, Shane.
Thanks for joining me.
My hope is for maybe just a moment of peace. Like if I could just get everybody to be sweet, and for that moment, right now, that's the gift. But we'll see. We'll see.
You want them
Fingers
in
crossed.
the house with Pete? I thought you meant like someone would watch them for you.
Well, that might be the only way to do it, but we'll see. My hope is maybe just maybe just a moment on the couch. We can all just be sweet to each other, but fingers crossed. Very, very high hopes.
My husband and I will watch them for you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, good. But you'll last about 5 minutes, and then you can call me and I'll get them.
He wants kids, so maybe this will be our test.
Oh, you never will have them, maybe. You never know.
Haley Clark, thank you again for joining.
Shane. I love doing this, and I love DIFFA, and thank you for what you do for this group, too.
And we're so thankful to have you as well. Again, you can find out more information about DIFFA at diffadallas.org. Until next time, bye, everyone.
Thank you.